Hello everyone, my name is Mello, and today we're going to take a look at the Brunei royal family's wild collection of Ferraris. This topic has a lot of misinformation surrounding it, hence why I'm making this video in the first place. And so, before we dive into this exciting topic, there are a few things that we need to talk about first. Number 1. The collection is not the Sultan's. The Sultan of Brunei, Hassan al-Bolkiah, did not purchase all these cars. Rather, it was mainly his brothers and his nephews doing. Prince Jeffrey Bolkiah and Prince Abdul Hakim. Number 2. The cars are for the most part no longer rotting. The internet has been fully convinced that basically all these cars are dying in the middle of a jungle in Borneo. Well, it's not. Yes, at some point these cars were looking quite terrible, but since around the mid to late 2000s, the cars have been getting regularly serviced here and there, auctioned off within their own country, or sold to outside buyers. Many modern pics of the collection show the cars in alright condition, so I definitely would not worry about them rotting. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. The Ferrari 288 GTO is undeniably one of Ferrari's most underrated cars, and quite frankly, I do understand why. But besides the fact that it's basically a 308 GTB on steroids, it is one of the most highly sought after Ferraris ever produced. And guess what? The Brunei royal family car collection was home to a grand total of 5 of them. 4 quote-unquote normal GTOs and 1 Evoluzione. Sources say that Brunei's Evoluzione, chassis number 79889, was the last 288 Evoluzione ever built, which is quite cool. Now on to the normal GTOs. Chassis 56641 is Brunei's Rosso Corsa chassis, definitely the least documented one. Chassis 56655 was repainted to blue Indiana and has a wonderful blue interior. Definitely not the only car in the collection in blue Indiana, but definitely the one that looks the best in it. Chassis 57727, which is a narrow chassis, is no longer in Brunei. It was previously Prince Jeffrey Bolkiah, the Sultan's brother, personal 288. Last but not least, my favorite 288 chassis ever, Chassis 55671. This chassis is definitely the most documented one, as it traces its roots back to the UK where it was owned by Ron Stratton, a Ferrari, Rolls-Royce and Lotus dealer, then after by some guy called Hugh Dundas, which is an arbitrator, whatever that means. The Brunei royal family sure are an extravagant bunch, owning an estimated 73 Ferrari 456s, but we will only be covering 21 of those 73. This definitely will be my favorite topic in this entire video, considering how much I love and how much I want to own a Ferrari 456 GT Venice. The Brunei royal family sent 19 Ferrari 456s to Pininfarina and had them converted to 7 estates, 6 saloons, and 6 spiders, and most likely, all of these Venices have an automated manual transmission, which is pretty cool. We will be covering them by color rather than by body type. The BRF had 3 Venices in your typical Rosso Corsa, chassis 103219, which is a saloon, 104368, which is an estate, and 103292, which is a spider. Of these 3 Venices, the red estate is the most well documented one, as there are pictures of it mid-coach building at Pininfarina at the discretion of Paulo Garella, the engineer behind most of the Pininfarina conversion jobs ordered by the BRF. At the time we are recording this, it is Prince Bahar's birthday, but anyways, Prince Bahar, which is another one of Prince Jeffrey's sons, is known for owning a good 99% of all yellow cars in the collection, and the following cars are most definitely his. Chassis 107636, which is an estate, and Chassis 104626, which is a spider. Now you might have noticed that I did not mention the saloon. Well, there's a good reason for that. The yellow 456 GT Venice saloon is one of 2 Venices with an unknown chassis number. The saloon is also one of the very few Venices with the stock 456 GT wheels, rather than the custom made and better looking Venice wheels. There is only one pic of it that I know of, and there doesn't seem to be any plates on the car, which makes identifying it that much more difficult. There are 3 emerald green Venices, Saloon 105543, Estate 105382, and Spider 104723. Definitely the most overlooked ones out of the bunch. There's really little to no information surrounding these 3 chassis, and there's not much else I can say about them. The forest green bunch are definitely more interesting than the prior, Saloon 107639, Estate 103190, and Spider 104023. 2 of these 3 cars have left Brunei for the United States. Well, at least the Spider did leave for the US immediately, while the estate had some pretty solid lore already before it arrived in the big US of A. I'm not exactly sure if the forest green estate ever set foot in Brunei. It did get a Brunei and Regno, but I have no records of it ever setting foot in the country. Despite that, the car has been spotted in the UK as early as 2001 under CIA for Ragnos. A little after, once it was under new ownership, I believe, this beautiful green on green 456 got respec into the lamest 456 ever seen. Argento Nürburgring and beige interior? Like basically half of all 456s ever? Seriously? But it arrived in the land of the free, and the car got brought back to its former glory and is back to its original spec. Nero Daytona is pretty clearly the color of choice for Prince Jeffrey Bolkia, with Estate 103261 and Spider 103380 being his. But of course, as the last time, the saloon has no visible license plate or no chassis number, despite the fact that it has been photographed and spotted outside a few times. Now, this is a peculiar one. What I believe is Princess Hamida's 456 GT Venice Estate is the only one in the collection in what I believe is a shade between Grigio Silverstone and Grigio Titanio. Now onto the silver Venices, with chassis 102946 as a starter. This saloon was in London for a few years, which is pretty cool. Estate 104397 was also in London for a few years. Matter of fact, only recently, and I mean around 6 years ago, did this specific 456 ever set foot in Brunei, as it was delivered to the UK, although always in the ownership of the BRF. This specific estate seems to be Prince Bahar's, as per the 1PB plate that it was registered to in the UK in the current KR 1981, alluding to Prince Bahar's birth year. The Spider's chassis is 101396. What does someone with basically infinite money do? Well, buy cars with incredibly abnormal features, of course, you fucking idiot. The Ferrari 456 GT was no outlier, and the BRF commissioned a grand total of 2 Ferrari 456s with night vision, which, let's be honest, is incredibly ahead of its time, especially considering this was made in the 90s. Chassis 102199 is the least advanced one, clearly, because it has one sorry ass screen and some anti-scroll cameras. On the other hand, chassis 105599 has 3 screens and a large ass Teletubby antenna camera looking thing. I apologize for my potty mouth, but quite frankly, this is the most outrageous Ferrari ever conceived ever. According to Wikipedia, the Ferrari Mythos is a mid-engine, rear-wheel drive concept car based on the mechanical underpinnings of the Ferrari Testarossa, blah blah blah. Its world premiere was at the 1989 Tokyo Motor Show. This Mythos that Wikipedia is talking about is a prototype, which currently resides in Monaco, while Brunei ordered 3 Mythoses, who knows? Considering that these were coach built by Pininfarina, they got their own special VIN numbers, which are not the same as your average Ferrari VIN, EFH 103, EFI 118, and EFH 089. The Brunei Mythoses are distinct as per their what seem to be pop-up headlights, the presence of a roof, air intakes on the front clamshell, flying buttresses, and the lack of a support on the spoiler. EFI 118 was painted in the aforementioned blue Indiana. EFH 089, Prince Jeffrey's Mythos, is painted in, of course, black. And there's a red one, which is EFH 103. Not much else to say about it. No, not the FXX, not the FXXK, but the FX. The most fishy Ferrari to have ever come out of the 90s. As it looks kind of like a fish. And no disrespect either, I love the fish-looking Ferraris. The Ferrari FX is another one of these coach-built Ferraris that the Brunei royal family owned that is based on the Testarossa. A grand total of 7 were produced, and this time with identifying features which can very clearly give us an idea as to who owned each one, for the most part. Chassis 99665 is the Rosso Corsa example, owned by Prince Abdul Hakim. Originally, this car used to have his Batman-style monogram on the seats, which looks badass, clearly, but for some reason got removed later on. The car also went through a registration change, as it was originally registered to BL21, but afterwards got re-registered to BQ7535. The car has an automated manual transmission. Chassis 103957, personally my favorite effects. Of course, in Bahar's iconic yellow, also in his possession, with his pretty intricate B monogram visible on the car's B pillar. Chassis 103396 also belonged to Abdul Hakim, now resides in the Marconi Museum in the United States, alongside the forest green Venice Spider and one of Brunei's old F50s. This blue Scuro example seems to have a manual transmission, and I truly wish I had pictures of it while it was still in Brunei. Chassis 99664 is one of Prince Jeffrey's 2 or 3 FXs, as per the monogram, and of course, it's black. It also seems to have an automated manual. Chassis 105098 does not have a visible monogram, but I also assume it's Jeffrey's, considering it's black. Chassis 99284, which also features Jeffrey's monogram, is definitely a very interesting car, as per the paint job being some charcoal-esque color which fits the car quite well. It also features an automating manual. I'm really starting to think that Prince Jeffrey does not know how to drive stick. Now onto the most mysterious FX out of the bunch, Chassis 101676. This specific FX only seems to have one good picture of it, and it was taken while the car was still a work in progress. It is registered to the Regno BP512. Having 9 F50s in your car loadout is not as crazy as having the most special edition F50 made just for you. The F50 Bolide is largely considered lost media, as there are no records of this car existing besides photographs. But let me let you in a little secret. The car never really existed, and it was never lost media, because if it were lost media, then these pictures would have never existed if you think about it. The F50 Bolide was a clay model displayed to the Brunei royal family as what could have been one of the craziest F50s ever, besides the F50 GT. And considering it was a clay model, said clay model likely no longer exists. Rather, the clay was repurposed for some other project. TLDR, the car never really existed, it was just a clay model and the car was never built in the end. 6 out of the 9 F50s they owned were converted to right-hand drive, with all but 3 Rosso Corsa examples being in said configuration. Chassis 102902, 103033, and 102813 were the only left-hand drive F50s in the collection, with 2 of them, Chassis 102902 and 103033, having left the collection. 102902, which was registered to the Regno BP76, previously used to be registered to BN3003. 102852 and 107500 were the other 2 Rosso Corsa F50s in the collection, both in right-hand drive and both having left the collection. Another Bahar related mystery with their only Giallo F50, with the Regno BQ8000, having no known chassis number, which is extremely peculiar. Also a right-hand drive and features pretty interesting and in my opinion stunning red and yellow interior. Chassis 103047 is their Argento F50, which frankly doesn't have any interesting lore for me to tell you about. Also right-hand drive. Just now we talked about Chassis 102902 being registered to BN3003. Said BN3003 now belongs to Chassis 103034, which is one of 2 narrow F50s that the family owns, the other one being 107545. Either one, or maybe both, of them are owned by Prince Jeffrey Bolkiah, and as per usual, right-hand drive. This part of the video definitely has the most misinformation surrounding it, with many people saying that the Sultan of Brunei owns 20 F40s, with 2 of them being wingless longtails and this and that. Just shut up, okay? The Ferrari F40 is definitely one of Ferrari's most overrated models, but I like to think of it as pretty much a solid and fun looking Ferrari, ignoring the pop-ups. Just like the 288 GTO, all F40s left the factory in Rosso Corsa, but since Brunei likes to spice things up, they sent all of their F40s to Pininfarina to have them modified in one way or another, and in quite a tasteful matter too. The Brunei royal family had a total of 11 F40s, with one of them being the quote-unquote God tier F40 LM. All of them but one got converted to right-hand drive, and each one has their own unique touch to them. Chassis 94759 is their only Rosso Corsa F40. The only real differences between it and your average F40 is the fact that it has a leather interior, like basically all F40s that they sent to Pininfarina, is right-hand drive, and has Testarossa seats. Chassis 78426 is quite the interesting one. It never arrived in Brunei, but despite that, still got registered in Brunei, with Prince Jeffrey's DPD Duli Pengiran Digadong plate. It was painted in a color akin to a mix of Rosso Dina, Rosso Magma, and Rosso Barchetta, then after got repainted to Giallo Modena, then after it got sold, the new owner got its leather interior removed and brought back to its original super mega boring Staffo Vignagna interior, and then got the car repainted in Rosso Corsa again. Truly a shell of its former self, because what in the f*** is this man? Formerly had 512 TR seats. Probably the most well-known and most beloved F40 in the collection, BP77, aka Chassis 80756. one of the GOAT F40s for sure, painted in this spectacular emerald green featuring a green interior and Prince Abdul Hakim's badass monogram on the 512TR seats. I even have a model car of it. Pretty cool, right? Chassis A4574 is often claimed to be the most mysterious F40 in the collection. Well, let me tell you, it's not. The forest green this F40 is featured in looks nothing like your typical forest green paint job, despite the fact it is. And there are tons of pictures of it. The car has 512TR seats as well, and the car seems to be owned by Prince Jeffrey, as per the DPD plate that I mentioned earlier. The royal family sure likes their matte black Ferraris, such as their 456, 550, and later on their Enzo, which I'll be mentioning later. Chassis 89431 is no different, and it also has 512TR seats. Another weird thing that I noticed about said F40 is its strange plate placement, placed very high up as seen in this image. No idea why they did this. I personally think it's stupid. Now onto a proper mysterious F40, chassis A2825. This narrow Daytona F40 is possibly the least known one in the collection, considering the fact that this car has only one picture of it that I know of, which I cannot share for privacy reasons. The picture is not publicly available, but I was lucky enough to glance at it and was able to recreate the spec exactly as it was. The car features 512TR seats. My favorite F40 in the entire collection, chassis 85074, the only left-hand drive F40 in their collection, and their best looking one too. It is in the same spec as the chassis 55671 GTO, in a beautiful dark charcoal with red pinstriping. The car also features Testarossa seats, and in this image, a very messy interior. I would absolutely love to own this chassis one day. Another famous F40 in the collection is chassis 912A3, the matte charcoal F40. This car is very recognizable for having left the BRF collection very early on, and being owned by famous Ferrari dealer Talacrest. This chassis was neutered for a while, believe it or not, having its interior permanently stripped away and being repainted back to Rosso Corsa by some disrespectful psychopath. The F40 was repainted back to its iconic matte charcoal color with red pinstripe, but the interior is the same lame Stofo Vignoli interior as seen in most F40s. The car also originally featured Testarossa seats. Chassis 9680 and 87455 are also F40s which I own model cars of. The Argento and Bianco duo is pretty much one of the more overlooked F40s in the collection, but I frankly don't see why. They're pretty nice specs. Both cars have 512TR seats, and I don't think they should ever leave the other one side. Now for the Holy Grail, chassis 88523, Brunei's F40 LM. Genuinely, how this happens is beyond me. Basically, what is a race car with a leather interior, power windows, radio, air conditioning, and a cool paint job? And Testarossa seats. Basically, all F40s in the collection had power windows, radio, AC, and leather interiors, which is actually pretty cool. No, not the F80 or SF90 or anything else that you had in mind. This spaceship looking thing is possibly the coolest thing that Enrico Fumia, the designer of well-known cars like the Alfa Romeo 164, Lancia Y, Maserati 3200 DT, Alfa Romeo Spider, and GTV has ever, and I mean ever, concocted. Of course, based on the Testarossa, 6 of these bad boys were made, and they are all in their own unique specs. Chassis 88171 is not a Rosso Corsa example. Rather, the closest match is Rosso Barchetta. The car has been photographed recently going to Maranello to be serviced, which is quite interesting. Chassis 86390 is also a pretty interesting case. It is also in emerald green, and little to no pictures of it exist. The car also features a green interior and red pinstriping. Chassis 86784 is definitely a fun one to talk about. This Grigio F90 is owned by Prince Jeffrey, and this picture of the car features what seems to be him driving the car and giving the photographer a thumbs up. Truly one of the best and most spectacular pictures ever taken inside of the island of Borneo. The car also features red pinstriping and his DPD plate. 87195 is a very underwhelming F90, which is crazy to say. The car doesn't really have any interesting lore surrounding it besides the fact that it's missing its front grille in this picture. This one is a pretty fun one. Around end December 2025, Prince Abdul Hakim made an Instagram story where we could ask him things. I took this opportunity and asked him which F90 was his favorite. He responded, always blue, as seen in this screenshot. He is talking about chassis 86626. Pretty interesting example with tinted windows, a blue Indiana paint job, and red pinstriping. Chassis 83096 is definitely the most photographed one, although I don't have any pictures of it inside of Brunei. The car, as per usual, features red pinstriping. Now, the Brunei royal family sure loves their fair share of Testarossas and Testarossa based cars, owning a grand total of 52 Testarossas including the FX, F90, etc. But only 12 of these truly are something like never seen before. The Ferrari Testarossa Spider is another one of these Pininfarina coach builds, and so they all got their own special VIN numbers similar to the Mythos. Let's speed run them. EFF 0110, pretty simple example in Rosso Corsa, and has a right-hand drive interior. Pretty ordinary besides the painted red lip. EFF 0112, basically a sister car to the white F40 in my opinion. Pretty nice and solid spec. EFF 013, one of 3 Pininfarina Testarossas known to be owned by Prince Jeffrey as per the DPD plate, despite the fact it's not black. EFG 091, spectacular aquamarine paint job, pretty similar to what is now known as Blue Capri. EFG 086 and EFF 109 are both anthracite colored chassis with basically identical specs. EFF 111 is an Argento model, also not much else to say about it. EFG 088 is definitely my favorite one out of the bunch. It's in a color very similar to Violo Hong Kong, although no exact official name is known for this paint job. Very peculiar paint job for this one, a bluish Argento Nürburgring, chassis EFG 090. EFG 089 is another one of these Testarossas with a very fun paint job, this time in a shade of blue elder, maybe? EFG 092, the John Doe of Testarossa Spiders, which used to be Prince Jeffrey's Rosso Corsa Testarossa, now resides in Malmö, which is dangerously close to Denmark. EFG 087 is the quintessential Jeffrey Bolgia car, black and right-hand drive. The epitome of Ferrari, my favorite Ferrari of all time, and the car that got me into cars. The Enzo Ferrari truly is an automotive spectacle, and guess what? The BRF owned 2 of them. Chassis 136069 left Maranello as the only Enzo in Nero Opaco 20 gloss, but afterwards got repainted to the typical Nero Opaco, aka matte black, commissioned by your boy Jeffrey Bolgia, and quite frankly it's starting to grow on me. At the time we're recording this video, the car will be up for auction via RM Sotheby's in 41 days. 136087, Prince Abdul Hakim's Enzo, originally left Maranello in one of the coolest colors ever, the only Ferrari in Tanio Opaco Extra Campionario, a very long name for a very cool color, but unfortunately the car got repainted to blue TDF, which personally I find a shame considering that it went from an ultra rare to not so ultra rare. But I digress, fantastic spec. The car never set foot in Brunei, but was housed in one of the BRF's estates in London. The LaFerrari, I'd argue, is the best one out of the 2010s Holy Trinity, and the Bruneian royal family is no stranger to the car, as they owned 3 of them. Nowadays, only 1 remains in Brunei. 208564, definitely the more infamous one out of the bunch, finished in Rosso Berlinetta, and likely owned by Prince Jeffrey Bolgia, as per the license plate. This example found itself in an accident where who I think was his son, Prince Abdul Hakim, behind the wheel. Said car is now in New Zealand. Chassis 204097, we're back with a beautiful red pinstriping. The only LaFerrari which left Maranello in Nero BB. Chassis 202561 is a Bianco Fuji LaFerrari, which still resides in Brunei. This example is owned by Prince Abdul Mateen, who is one of the Sultan's sons. Now onto the last car that we will be covering in this video, Bahar's very own, the 550 Barchetta before the 550 Barchetta, a 550 Barchetta with a convertible hardtop, which is insane. I unfortunately have no idea what chassis number belongs to this specific car, but what I do know is that it has not set foot in Brunei yet, I believe. Thank you so much for sticking to the end. I truly appreciate your pretty above average attention span, and I really hope you enjoy this video. I really wanted to air out this topic because it's something I'm extremely passionate about. Anyways, thanks for watching and have a nice day.